Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Dr. Frank. I'm excited to have you here because we get to talk about organization and how to make it easy, which is something that many people have always been wanting to do in their life. And now they really get to start actually doing it because it is so simple. And we're going to show them why. So before we dive into this, let me just introduce you to our audience here. So everybody, this is Dr. Frank Buck. And Frank is currently ranked #1 in the world by Global Guru's top 30 in the time management category. So we've got an expert here, everybody. Now, he is a public speaker, productivity coach, and author of Get Organized, Time Management for School Leaders, and Get Organized Digitally, the Educator's Guide to Time Management. Dr. Buck has spoken to audiences throughout the United States and internationally, and his mission is to help busy professionals achieve total control over their time and the peace of mind that nothing is falling through the cracks. Dr. Buck's nuts and bolts approach, along with his blend of content and humor, has made him a favorite with audiences, which we get to see today because he's extremely funny, and I love the humor that he brings to what can be a very tricky topic to talk about. So welcome, Dr. Buck. Welcome, Frank. How are you?
Taylor, I could not be more delighted to be with you this morning or this afternoon, depending on where people are listening from.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. So we are talking about organization made simple, and that's pretty big. You're an expert in this world, and you've helped a lot of people, start figuring out how they can live their life and things aren't falling through the cracks, so that monkey mind kind of doesn't rule their life. So what brought you to the world of organization? Like why this arena?
Gosh, the story really starts when I was in high school, which is one reason I say we need to be teaching this to students as they're coming through. Certain things got me through to my senior year. Okay, I can remember that, or I'll write that on my hand, or I'll jot that on a piece of notebook paper, fold it in half and stick it in a textbook. And that sort of worked until senior year, which I think if we think back to that year in high school, it was a lot busier than the other years. And what had sort of worked before now wasn't working anymore. And it was at that point in my life that I realized I need to have one place where everything's coming together. So if you looked at my tools back then, it was an index card. Yep, on the front of the card, there's everything I needed to do that day that I had written down. And throughout the day, whatever came up went on the back of the index card. You go to first period, they announced the homework, jotted on the back of the card. Second period's homework, jotted on the back of the card. Third period, a pretty girl gives you her phone number, jotted on the back of the card. Sixth period, the English teacher says, we're going to do a term paper. And it's going to be due April 15th on the back of the card. April 15th, term paper due. Then when I get home, I've got exactly one job. Clear that stupid card. Handle the things that haven't been handled on the front, turn over on the back, do the things that I can do the homework. The phone number, what am I going to do with that? Well, I can put it in my address book. And now, am I going to call her and ask her for a date? Yeah. What else am I going to do with that phone number? Oh gosh, that term paper. What are the steps that are going to be needed? If it's due on April the 15th, when do I want to have it typed? Well, let's start a card for the day I want to have it typed. Let's work our way backwards. What are all the steps? And start putting that stuff on index cards. So I get up in the morning. Here's the index card for the day with everything that in the past I want to come back to me today there. Now I don't use an index card anymore. I use an expensive phone, and it's synced to my computer, and it's bouncing off of satellites and all that kind of stuff, and it's using Google's server. It's real complex today as far as the tool is concerned, but the system's very easy. I get up in the morning, and what I have to do for today is right there. And throughout the day, whatever comes up gets thrown right there. The principle has remained the same, even though the tool through which I do it has changed. And the principle is one that's very easy. You're not trying to remember anything. Something lands on your little area of, I got to handle this. You throw it in the system and you earn a right. And I'm going to use the F word here. Forget. You earn the right to forget about it. and your system does the remembering, and there's very little stress. Nothing falls through the cracks.
Wow. Okay, first of all, that's quite a journey. I mean, you've been doing this clearly for a very long time. So we're pretty lucky to be listening to you here because of your expertise. Now, I want to dive into the processes and the system that you were just talking about in a second. But before we jump into that, I kind of want to put out in the open for everybody to see, what is it that usually sabotages people from being able to be organized and stay committed and on track with this stuff? Like, what is it that usually is our biggest saboteur in the world of organization?
To me, I think it's lack of a system. People start to get overwhelmed, and maybe they've been keeping up with things in a paper planner or, whatever their system, quote unquote, is, and things get a little bit busier and they just sort of chunk the system and go, oh, it's too much. And they go back to try remembering it all. Well, that's the whole thing that got them in trouble. That's what got them in trouble to start with. And I think the biggest thing is most people just don't have systems at all. We don't teach this kind of stuff in school. We need to. And very few on-the-job programs have any of this. You sort of, some people pick it up as they go. Some people take some kind of formal course, and some people just run into a brick wall and go, gosh, life is so hard. It does not have to be as hard as we try to make it.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty big. So it's perfect that we're talking about this, because having a system can make or break. I mean, your freedom time, the time that you want to spend with your family or your friends, or learning that skill that you never got to learn because you're so busy, right? Mm-hmm. So then how do we start creating a system that works for us? What does that look like? Like, help us out here.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Let me give you, everybody who's listening, a couple of things that you could do today. Go get yourself 43 hanging file folders and label the first 31 of them 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 31. Each one represents a day of the month. And then the remaining 12, label them January, February, March. It's an old business tool called the Tickler File. I learned it from my dad when I was like 8 years old. And the idea is, I know we talk about the paperless society. Well, how many of us are totally paperless? I'm getting there, but most people are inundated with paper, and that's part of the problem. So what are the papers that are laying around that you need to do something with sometime in the future? And you got them laying around so that you don't forget them. No, I want you to forget about them until the day you need them. So the idea is, you take the paper, you ask, when do I want to see this again? Put it in the file for the appropriate day and forget about it. On that day, every day you pull the file for that day, and inside there's the stuff that you told yourself you wanted to see today. And it is so, it's so easy. And then the second thing, see, people always ask me, they say, Frank, that sounds so simple. It sounds simple enough that would actually work. But let me ask you a question. That's going to handle the paper. But what about all the digital stuff in my life? Do you have something sort of like the Tickler File for the digital side? And I go, absolutely. Get yourself a good digital task list. I use Remember the Milk. You could go to rememberthemilk.com today for free and create an account, download the mobile app, log into it with the same username and password, so everything syncs back and forth and you have your stuff from everywhere. And then when you think of something you got to do, you just create a new task and give it a due date that answers the question, when do I want to see this task again? And then every morning on the little, click the today button, and there's anything from yesterday that you didn't get finished. It just rolls right over, and all of the stuff that you wanted to come back to you today. And it's like the digital version of the Tickler File. And so you got your paper and you got your digital stuff, and it's all there in one little system, and there's no forgetting. See, Taylor, the nice thing is, I've got tons of stuff to do, but the only thing that I'm thinking about right now is this interview that you and I are doing. I can be 100% focused right here with the confidence that everything else I have to do it's trapped right here and synced to my computer and bouncing off satellites and all that kind of stuff. After this interview's over, I can look and see what I need to do next and know that nothing's falling through the cracks and it's all right there.
Wow. So this is pretty huge for focus. Like we're not just talking about organization, but this is going to impact so many other areas of your life, because it means that you're not stretching yourself in all these different directions, trying to think about, okay, I have to do this and I have to go pick up the kids and I have to go, do this and this and this. You really get to start being present in what you're doing, because it's all taken care of on the back end, which is
Absolutely.
pretty huge.
Yeah. See, we spend so much of the time, we can't be present here because we're thinking about picking up the kids. And when we pick up the kids, we can't be present there because we're thinking about what we need to be doing at work the next day. And it's just this vicious cycle of we're never where we need to be. I've heard the old saying, be where your feet are.
Yeah.
And we need to be doing a whole lot more of that in life.
A lot more grounding. Yeah. So this is
Yeah.
a great way to start helping people ground and be present in what they're doing and stop the overwhelm, because the overwhelm happens when, we start stretching ourselves into a way that we don't have it all covered on the back end. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is a huge hack for getting, rid of that pressure, that overwhelm. So I'm curious, what about like in the system, I have things that are not necessarily due. They're things I would like to get done.
Mm-hmm.
They're not urgent or extremely important, but they're like things that I've been wanting to, clear from my desk or get out of the way. What does your system do with this kind of stuff?
Yeah. Really, every time management system has some place that they put out, like David Allen calls it the someday maybe list. Charles Hobbs called his the grass catcher list with his day timer. It's been called a master list in other places. So it's the things that you want to trap them so that they don't fall through the cracks, but they don't have to be done today. They don't have to be done next Tuesday. They just need to be done sometime. So my little secret is I tend to give those a due date of like the last day of the coming month, so that about once a month, here are all these things that are presented to me. Now, some of them I've already kind of grabbed and pulled back further into the month and already done. Some of those things I wind up kicking a month down the road. Some of them I wind up going, nah, I'm not going to do that after all. It seemed like a good idea at the time, but nah, let's get rid of that. And plenty of others I go, yeah, it's time to get moving on this. I'm going to give that Tuesday's date, so that worst case scenario, once a month, it's presenting itself. And then generally what I do about once a week while I'm watching TV is just kind of scroll through some of those and go, what sort of just is now presenting itself that this is something I want to get done in the next several days. I just change the due date to Tuesday or Thursday, whatever day I want to get it done. But that's a good question. How do I keep up with the stuff I just want to do sometime? Not really any kind of deadline.
Right. Yeah. Because I keep thinking like, oh, I have this folder of things that I haven't gotten to. Right. I mean, it's, I want to like, basically it's just transferring and transcribing stuff, which is like boring, it's not that exciting. And then it's not really going to help me move forward with the big things I'm working on. So that's huge for many people who have that kind of that lagging or that miscellaneous stuff. We know what to do with it. That makes a lot of sense. Give yourself, a time a month that you dive into it. So then what I want to ask now is, we've got this like a really cool system. It's really about finding the system that works for you. You've given us something that is very simple, very easy. Mm-hmm. Now, one thing that really gets people is, they'll get the system started, but they don't keep going with it. So what would you say to, support people in really staying committed and being able to continue a system? What do they need to know? Like, what do they need to do?
The things that they would need to do or know to keep this working is don't give up on the system. If there's too much on the list, and if you look at the list and you're going, oh no, if it's painful to look at the list, look at what's on there that is ambiguous. Solve world hunger. Yeah, okay, that's wonderful. That's noble. But you tell me how. If you've got solve world hunger and buy shoestrings on your list side by side, at the end of the day, buy shoestrings will have been done because we know where to get them. We know what they look like. We know roughly how much they cost, and we know how to install them when we get them back home. It's clear, it's easy to do. And that's what we need to make our list, where we've taken just a little bit of time to make what we put on that list. We've worded it clearly so that when we look at it, we just can't almost wait to get started. We just want to jump in and get that done and get that checked off and put the things in sort of in order where things are logical, where your errands are listed together and your phone calls are listed together. So what I do with my Remember the Milk, everything gets a due date. So that gives me, hey, here are my marching orders for the day. But people say, well, Frank, what about things that, you can only really do when you get home in the evening? Or what about things you want to do in the morning? Well, I use the priority category, but I don't use it for priority. I assign the top priority to what I call the Fab Five. What are those most important 5 things? And they get that top priority. So they're sitting right there at the top. And then what do I want to see during the morning? That gets that next priority, afternoon the next, and evening the next. So now I have a list of not only here's my day, but here's my Fab Five, here's my morning, here's my afternoon, here's my evening. And then further within those, I've got things sorted by tags so that if I've got several errands and I want to do those in the afternoon, well, within the afternoon, the tags sort together so the errands show up right next to each other and the phone calls show up right next to each other. So there's, I let technology do the heavy lifting, let the automation do the work.
Yeah. So you just spoke to 2 really big things right there. One was about projects, right? Projects, you're not going to finish it in one day. And so a lot of us will like assign ourselves a very big and ambitious thing that we want to finish. And then, there's so many pieces that we don't know yet. So we just end up avoiding it and putting it off. And so I love how you speak to, break it down for yourself. How do we start solving world hunger? Today, what can I do? Okay. And then you pinpoint specific actions. Maybe it's make a website. And then, under that, what you keep breaking it down. And so I think that's huge because that's a big saboteur for, me in my life and what I've seen in, like the career, the professionals around me. They work on pretty big stuff, to make an impact. And often they get overwhelmed by, this very big, hairy goal, which takes time, right? And I love the other thing that you spoke to in terms of being able to prioritize, right? Like, so I love how you called it.
Organize that day. Yeah, you have an organized list. Yeah.
The Fab Five. I love your term for that. So the Fab Five, just to kind of break that down, is essentially your 5 most urgent priorities for the day.
Yeah, it could be things like sometimes there's something it absolutely positively has to be done that day because maybe you've been procrastinating. I don't know. And then other times it maybe doesn't absolutely have to be done today, but it's something that's really going to move the needle for me. And when I get up first thing in the morning, I want some little jolt that's going to encourage me to jump on that now and then handle some little stuff later. Because if you start by handling the little stuff, you're going to spend the whole day handling the little stuff and the big stuff never gets done. So that's my motivation to get on the really, Stephen Covey used to call them the big rocks. Different people have turned them different ways. But those few things that are going to really make a big difference for you. So those are my Fab Five. Now, sometimes it's a 6, sometimes they're 6, sometimes they're 4, but you get the idea. You don't want 25.
Right. It's about focusing it and narrowing it down and making it easier for yourself. Make it easy. Don't make it hard, which is exactly what what you speak to. So, as we're kind of wrapping up here, you've given us a lot of tools and a lot of different things we can go start doing. Remember the milk or a Tickler file, and going and getting folders to start organizing all that paper. Now, I'm curious, what are 3 things to kind of sum it all up that someone can do right now to start applying, these techniques for organization and like be proactive with their time and free to enjoy their day? What are 3 things they can do right now?
Okay. Well, again, get your Tickler file going, and you could do that today. Second, get that remember the milk, get that account. So now it's sort of like you got the 2 buckets. Here's the bucket for the paper, here's the bucket for the digital. And now start going through your life. Start taking those little sticky notes and those little scraps of paper, all those all the stuff off the stupid refrigerator door, grab all that stuff and now start putting it in the system. The paper stuff in the Tickler file for the appropriate day, the little card for when you need to go see the doctor. Well, it's 4 months from now. Instead of letting it be on the refrigerator door for 4 months, put it in the file for the month that it's actually going to happen. And all the little to-dos, put them in that digital system. That may take you the rest of the day. That may take you the rest of the weekend. But whatever time you spend setting it up, you're going to recoup that time over and over, and you're going to have the peace of mind that nothing is falling through the cracks, and you're going to have control over your time.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, it's so simple. Get 43 files and go remember the milk, and then start collecting.
You got it.
All your crap, all your stuff, all your to-dos, right?
It's organization made easy.
Right. Yeah. So you could do this in an afternoon, which is pretty huge. And there's not a lot of excuses for, watching Netflix tonight if you really want to be proactive with your time. So then let me ask you one more question. I know that you have a gift for everybody who wants to continue learning more about organization and to really start putting this into practice. What is that gift?
Okay, I've actually got 2. And to just look at what we've been talking about, the Tickler files and remember the milk. If people go to my website, frankbuck.org, and you'll see right there in the middle how you can get on my email list, and you get 2 free gifts within several days of each other. The first one is the first chapter of a book I wrote that goes into detail on the Tickler file and gives you lots of examples on things you would put in it. And several days later, here's a free downloadable ebook on how to set up and use Remember the Milk.
I love it. It's so simple. So we're going to drop that link right in the email that's coming with this interview. So it's easily accessible to everybody who really wants to go start applying this. Like it's not now then when, right? So I love that we're talking about organization. I think I'm going to go sign up and create my own Tickler file, and it's huge to let that off your shoulders. And so thank you for the work you do, Frank, because I'm sure that you've given a lot of people their lives back and their time back.
It's a pleasure. And if somebody that's listening to this today, if you run into me on the street or in an airport terminal or somewhere and you happen to recognize my picture, I hope that you don't come up to me and you say, I really enjoyed what you had to say. No, I want them to say, you changed my life. It was one simple thing or 2 simple things that it was so simple. Why didn't I ever think of that before? But that has changed my life every day since. That's what this is about.
Yeah, it's amazing. So thank you for sharing this, and thank you for the work you do. It's been an honor to, dive into this with you. And as always, it's so much fun talking to you. So thank you, Frank.
Taylor, it has been a pleasure. Thanks, everybody.